right? You saw what happened after 9/11. We leveled Afghanistan.
Right.
We leveled it. I was there. I was a part of it. Like, and on September 9th, I was in Singapore, and we pulled out. And 2 days later, towers get hit, and we're like, oh shit, I guess we're not going to the Persian Gulf. So, whoop, right over off of the coast of Pakistan. And if people knew, though,
Right.
if people actually knew that, oh, it was our fault that the towers got.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually know the history,
Inside job.
the Arab Spring and all this kind of stuff. Even if you're like, okay, you don't want to go so far as on the conspiracy trail to say that the U.S. orchestrated it, right? Because there are people that have that opinion. I'm not willing to go that far. I'm willing to go far enough to go, well, we created the conditions by starting foreign wars, by destabilizing governments
Created the enemy.
created the enemy that hates us, that then attacks us, right?
We gave them weapons.
We gave them weapons.
I was New York. Oh, great! You got my first commitment. Oh, really? First 50K. Yeah, that's fucking dope. Yeah. Trying to raise it on 5, raise 5, but 50K is for your app. Yeah, by the other thing that I'm gonna do after what I'm doing now. So yeah, for sure, it's badass. That's good validation though. Like when you have somebody that actually goes, yeah, put money into that. Wow. All right, let's fucking go. Let's do it.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Nice. So yeah, Cameron just tell me, get that door. Cameron just tell me a little bit about what you got going on. You work with Kate.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then you're big into AI and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That where you were just doing here. Let's
Really this up a little bit. Yeah. So right now I work. I produce content, right, with the company where Caitlin, we both work at. It's called Engage Technologies, and we make like medical education content for all kinds of procedures. And right now it's big into plastic surgery, which is fascinating. If you told me like years ago, like you're going to become a producer and you're going to produce all plastic surgery content, everything from breast augmentations, it's tummy tucks, like all the stuff that you would have to like know all that stuff, and be like, that's going to happen. Yeah, right. It's wild, right? But curiosity leads you all kinds of places. So so I do that with Kate, and she knows way more than I do. So I'm like, hey, is this right? What about this? Is this right? Now let me research that. So,
oh, that's cool, man. How long have you been with them?
A couple years. I knew Lloyd, Caitlin's dad. We had started before years ago. So I worked with him there, and so I was looking for a change. I ran an ad agency for about 5 years in Seattle with some friends of mine, and the age of the game is brutal. It's a really tough way to make a living, just because of the competition, or just the nature of dealing with clients and all this. Like we were the agency of record for the central ranked team at Microsoft.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And we did work with Amazon and Starbucks and a lot of local companies, and just the nature of the work itself, of like the stakes, right? Like what if you make something and it's wrong and they don't like it, and there's all kinds of things that go into managing that kind of work. And then it's trading dollars for hours, right?
Yeah.
So it's all service based, and it's hard to run business that way, because where's the next contract coming from? Where's the next deal? And you have to be working as hard on, the business development side is doing the work itself. And it can burn a lot of people out. That makes me think about the Anheuser-Busch ad company here right now, where the marketing comes in there and fucking hot water.
Oh, I mean, I think VP of marketing, they're gone. They can't.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's interesting that they still haven't made a definitive statement yet, though. Right? Because I watch that stuff, because being in advertising for so long, it's just like, how would you even advise them, right? Because if you're kind of fucked either way, right? It's like,
yeah, you really are.
You really are. Like they're trying to play in the middle and release ads with horses and American Spirit, and they're trying to like call back to that, like, but you offended an audience, and they're not going to forgive you,
right?
Until you go, yeah, you have to make a stand, right? To a degree. I mean, I think pretty soon people are going to forget about it because the cycle will move on.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Because I think I saw 26%, they're down 26% in sales since that campaign came out. So yeah, I think they're just going to like hope people forget.
Yeah, for sure.
And then hopefully they start buying it because of they've been conditioned taste. They're Budweiser drinkers. So we'll see what happens.
It's interesting. I politically, I'm libertarian, so I'm not, I believe things that the left agrees with and the right agrees with.
100%.
It's like I'm kind of cross spectrum that way. It's not piss everybody off, but it's really hard to play the middle.
Yeah,
it's really, really hard. This is the kind of first time though on the conservative side that the culture has targeted one company. It said we're gonna as a movement, as a political perspective, we're going to go after Bud Light, which is like
you offended
us, right? Now we're gonna make you pay for it.
Interesting. I don't know if other companies will follow suit or like use that. We'll learn from that mistake.
Yeah.
Say, oh, these guys will or boycott.
They'll boycott, right, when they're down in sales. And so I think it's time will tell, right? Just like right. It's like are people when will people forget about it? When will they move on? But if you look at like, the media on the right, you look at the Daily Wires of the world, you look at, they're going after it. They're seen as an opportunity to take a W in the culture war, right?
Right.
And then, we'll see. People are people. People will forget.
And humans have a very short-term memory. So yeah, they'll forget.
We've talked about this before on the show, but like if you woke up tomorrow and decided you wanted to be a cowboy, how long would it be? 6? Would it be 9 months before people are like, oh, that's Cowboy Ken, or that sounds fair. It's like, oh, you're on brand. Yeah, it's how to change your own brand. Totally. Yeah, I mean everybody has a brand.
Yeah,
I think that the more conscious you are of sort of the brand that you're putting into the world, the more freedom you have, right? Because you just like, I know that when I put on certain clothes, I'm putting on a costume.
Exactly.
Like,
I use that exact word.
It's funny because for the first year and a half at Gage, I wore the exact same thing every single day. I wore the same boots, the same pants. I did just have multiple, whatever the same color. Just because I didn't want to think about having to choose which costume today I want to wear. So I'm just going to wear the same one, and I don't care. Because fundamentally, I don't care what people think of the clothes that I wear, unless I'm doing it for a purpose, right? I got to sail. I got to go,
Exactly.
I have to go play this part at this party, at this business meeting or whatever, right?
Right.
And so I think it took about a year for somebody to even notice.
Oh, really? To say, well, I think you wear the same thing every day, right?
Maybe they just didn't tell me that they noticed, but it took about a year for somebody to even make a comment.
To me, that I would, because I don't know if I'm on some sort of spectrum, but I'm so aware of we were just talking about you moving on today's the lunar eclipse. I look at things are very everything in our reality. It's a matrix. And so for me, if someone came out, I'd be like, oh, okay, you're aware enough to notice something's different about you than everybody else.
Yeah. Well, I think most of the time people are fundamentally just aware. They're just looking at themselves, right?
100%. They can't get out of their own.
They're only thinking about themselves, or they're primarily thinking about themselves and how they perceive the world is perceiving them, that they fail to notice the other details.
Yes.
Like every day, people are so unaware. Every day, my routine is I drop my kids off at school and I will drive to the Maverick, which is like right around our office. And I'll walk in and I'll get a full thing of biscuits and gravy for breakfast. And I'll walk up and I'll self-check out and get out. And I think so many days I'm like, if I just hit the beep and pretended to put my card in, look, nobody would notice. Because nobody would notice. I don't do it because that's stealing and that's wrong, right? But it's just like, it's wild to think about how much you could actually, how much shit could actually slip through the cracks on an everyday basis.
Oh, 100%. I think there are levels of awareness, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you were saying, like that that reality that the vast majority of people live in, like they're not even out of their own, let's call it insecurity, that out of their own mind, that is a level. And so like above that's like like what you mentioned with that example was once you break free of that, like you have a paradigm shift within your life that breaks you out of that sleep.
Yeah.
Then like, whoa, you see life differently. You start noticing things differently. Then like up the scale we go, It's very interesting.
Well, then it's levels of belief that are underneath of that, right?
Of course.
So it's like the deeper that goes, right? And then changing those is, you have the awareness and the belief. I think those are two things that are absolutely connected. So you're able to change that belief, governing beliefs, things that, that affect your everyday reality. I think that's where you get about crisis. That's where you get, maybe that awareness wakes you up and you go, oh shit, did I actually believe that?
Yeah.
Now confronted is something totally different, right?
I believed this for so long and it got me to this point in my life. And now I'm looking at these past 20 years like, oh my God, I'm like, because I believed that, it got me here and I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled. Like that belief didn't work for me.
Right. So why not? Yeah, true.
Exactly. Because like I'm reading this book right now called The Alchemy of Nine Dimensions.
Okay.
And she talks about in that is that in this third dimension that we're on, like we're in between the third, fourth, and fifth dimension right now. And she talks about like how right now we're living, our current physics are based on, Newtonian physics, but that's not necessarily true. It's only true for this dimension. Like on 5, 6, and 7, physics are totally different. We're just not aware of them right now.
Yeah, because we're limited by sense perception.
And the words, like, so we jump in the river every Friday. And a friend visited us today and we were talking about the same topic. And he was talking about words. And like even words like uranium, which was what we were talking about today, uranium, let's say computer. The word computer didn't even exist in like, let's say the 1400s. So our reality was literally shaped by the words that we had access to then.
What's the adage that words are spells?
Exactly. That's why I call it spelling. Yeah, casting spells.
Yeah, for sure.
So as we discover new things, as like consciousness evolves and we discover new things, like we have to create words for those new discoveries.
Mm-hmm.
And so then that just adds to the vocabulary and builds upon itself.
It reminds me of something that I've said for a long time. You have belief, then you have story, and then you have language, right? And so I tie this back to economics. In college, I studied quantitative economics. That was kind of like my deal.
Dang.
And there's different schools of economic thought, right? So there's like different people, and like, oh, I followed this guy, right? Or this school of thought. So John Maynard Keynes was,
I was just going to ask you, wow,
Keynesian economics, totally developed out of Europe, right, in the early 1900s, and brought about these ideas of government intervention and control, right? And then you sort of had, that was in opposition to, Adam Smith and the original classical and Ricardo after him. And you kind of have this spectrum, right? Well, there's a bunch of schools. There's like the Coasian school of institutionalism. There's the school that I subscribe to, which is the Austrian school of economics, which was developed by Karl Menger in the late 1800s, and further like fully developed by Ludwig von Mises out of Austria. And his book, which is very difficult to read, it is so dense, but it's worth reading at least once in your life, is Human Action. And he gets at this idea where he builds the economic system not on the framework of markets and all this kind of stuff. He goes, how do humans behave? Right. So like it's the precursor to behavioral economics that you probably hear of now with Thaler and this book Nudge and all this kind of stuff where they're trying to mix psychology and economics. They're late. Like that's already been done. And that was Mises. And his whole thing is like, man acts purposefully, right? In an effort to exchange my current state of affairs for something better, right? And it's just survival. It's all 100%, right? So the belief thing is, to me, and that's the origin of human action, right? stories is sort of the structure, the logic between action. And, I've learned storytelling and story structure from some really amazing people has sort of led me to that conclusion. And then language is the expression of human action, right? And so then language goes back to story, and the story goes back to belief, and they all sort of interdepend. They all connect to each other independently.
So it's almost belief is the emotion, the story is the logic, and you put it so perfectly. The language is the expression,
right? It's the action,
right? So the right, man, that's killer. So it's just so fitting, that we're talking to you right now. What are your thoughts? Because to me, like, everything is in a constant state of evolution. And so even like, Keynesian economics, while the world has been, kind of founded on that theory of economics, like we're evolving out of it, and we're seeing like kind of the faults of it.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts with banking? It's every week now a bank is collapsing. It's all based on that theory.
Well, it was really the Federal Reserve System that was formed in 1913. Jekyll Island,
that.
Yeah. So, that's really collusion.
100%.
Right. And so eventually a system that has formed that is going to advantage one of the people over another, balance at some point has to come at the system.
Yes.
And balance in this case, Schumpeter called it creative destruction. And that's what he was referring to entrepreneurship, right? So as markets evolve, okay, cars come along and, horse and buggy goes away, an act of creative destruction, right? And I think that banking is probably experiencing something similar, right? The system itself was never set up to be stable, solvent. It's fundamentally insolvent just by the fact that you have fractionals of the bank. That's it.
Oh yeah, I mean,
100%, full stop. It's fundamentally insolvent, right? And so you have to rely on the belief and the full faith and credit of the United States government, right? Confidence, right? You have to have that, right? And you have to sort of convince people, and then you have to make it really, really complicated, so that way then people can't dig into it for themselves and go, wait a minute, you're taking the money that I put in there and you're loaning it out to other people, and if we all try to go get our money, nobody has anything? Because if people actually knew that,
oh yeah,
right, the whole system would collapse overnight. And we've touched it a couple times, right?
Or if you even want to go grab your money out of the bank account, they like have all these hoops you have to jump through. They tell you it's going to take a while. It's all a sham because, we have to wait 5 days because we need the money delivered.
Right.
You guys don't have $15,000 here.
No, they're not required to hold reserves like they used to,
right?
So, yeah, I mean, I think that the way out of it, I don't know. I mean, to me, I think the way out of it is total catastrophic failure.
I'm 100. I've been waiting 17 years since I first.
It's slow because they have a lot. To your point, right? They have a lot of controls in place, and we're not going to make it easy to actually do that, right? But eventually, nothing grows forever without a decline, right? There's no civilizations ever existed in the history of the earth that didn't dissolve, right? And I think that that's where we're at in our country. I think we have peaked, 100%, and we are on the other side.
Yeah.
How long that de-evolution is, I think that's the hardest thing to predict. Hardest things of structures of power, institutions, and incentives, and all that kind of stuff.
What I think the biggest thing that we work on every single day is, instead of protesting the current system, we try to live in the new one. And Gary brought that quote up to me, but every single week, we're working closer and closer to protesting the system by just not living in it,
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot more Americans that are waking up and figuring that out. And so I think, just from like what I've seen in history books and stuff, that's never happened. So to see what's going to happen, I don't know. It's a toss up. Like, there's a lot of people that I think in the past that even Romans, years afterwards, they were still paying taxes and still like thinking that the Caesar was going to come save them. there's more and more people that are waking up to the corruption because of the internet and things that they're seeing, all these videos they're seeing every single day. And we've never had that in the past, right?
We haven't had this level of access to information, right? Which is why you see all the suppression and censorship, right? Because, I mean, if it was up under Obama's administration, remember they had the government wanted to try to regulate the internet,
100%.
right? And then they couldn't get it done, right? They just found a backdoor way to do it. We're just going to collude with tech companies, and we're going to find about backdoor way to do it. And like, if not for Elon Musk,
Right.
at this point in history, nobody would ever know,
Right.
There's a few people that know, right? Because they experience the shadow banning or whatever it is, right? But because even news about that gets suppressed, it's really hard for the populace as a whole to even be aware of it. But back to that awareness thing, right now I'm being shocked at this. I believe this the entire time. What?
Right.
They were censoring, they were doing this, they were working in the shadows. Oh, they're still doing it?
Oh, yeah.
That's wild.
And never before, because the entire world is running off of that same, I don't even want to say it's Keynesian economics. You put it so well, the Jekyll Island, the entire system, because every single country is running on a fiat system.
It's fiat currency, centrally controlled bank, right? They have, they own the deposit,
right?
Yeah, all that stuff.
And the foundation of that, created by those men that met on Jekyll Island, it's built on greed, corruption. Those are the values.
Yeah. Power control.
Yeah. So like you said, like the pendulum swings, like eventually the control and manipulation and greed gets to a point where nature itself brings things back in balance.
Exactly. And then if you study Austrian economics, that's a lot of what the early thinkers were saying. It's like, Adam Smith too, right? It's a natural law.
Yes.
So there's a great book called Debt the First 5,000 Years by Dave Graeber. And he's a communist. So I read communist too, right? Even though I'm as far from it as you can be. He makes some really good points. He's an anthropologist. And he talks about how this idea that barter, that money came out of barter. He's like, that's kind of bullshit. And he called it. And I was like, well, I want to consider another source. Okay, so read it. And I think he got it right, because he talks about how people in the natural state, it's called a gift economy. And in tribes, what you would do is, okay, so Ken comes in from hunting. He's got a big kill. He's got a deer, right? And, Gary's over there, like, hey, Ken, nice. That's a really great deer. I said, oh, sure, you want some? Right? So then, I'll cut you off some venison, right? Okay. Gary goes fishing.
Right.
Hey, you know what? Thanks for that deer, Ken. Thanks for that venison. Here's a really nice salmon that I caught, right?
Yeah.
And that's how it works, right? Nice. And what it ends up being is this sort of gift economy. It's sort of a debt economy in a sense, right? Everybody sort of owes everybody all the time.
Right.
And then within the tribe, right, within that sort of mindset and that of the community of people, if all of a sudden Marcus is over there and he's not participating, he's always taking the deer and he's always taking right, but then he's never contributing. And it's like, fuck that guy, get him out of here.
He's ostracized.
He's held accountable, right?
Right.
But there's the pressure, right, to participate because everybody owes something.
Yeah,
everybody else. And what's amazing about that is that, and he makes this point, look, when you seek to end a relationship, what do?
You score. What do you do? Yeah, 100%.
So that's the natural law, right? That's because that's how humans behave, and that's how we interact with nature and everything else around us, right? It's a I got you, you got me, right? And then when we don't got each other anymore, we sever ties and let them move on.
Yeah.
Here's a bill for all the past dinners we went out.
Right. Well, you're not bringing anything anymore. What have you done for me lately? There's no more than it's like, yeah, we're done here.
And that's just human behavior. That's just natural. Like, that's not a bad thing.
No, of course not.
That's just that's how we survived, right? And so then you start looking at alternative systems, like crypto and all these kind of things. And you look at the fiat system, and what it did is it completely goes against all of that.
Yes.
Right. So now you have institutions that hold paper, right, or hold supposedly, right, digits now. And and it doesn't honor the relational aspect of the economy and transactions that we participate in, right?
Yeah.
And and then get your money out anyway. So.
Right. Because again, like it's all based on a fraud. And so we haven't really dove into this, but Ken mentioned a little bit to me that you're kind of into, I don't know if it's pronounced Galatria or Gematria. Maybe you didn't. What was it?
Oh, sorry. I thought that's what we talked about at While We Smoke Cigars. You said you studied
Numerology.
Oh, no. Enneagram.
What's that?
Enneagram is a personality.
Oh, okay. I know all about that then. Yeah. Okay. The different numbers. Yeah.
So I've studied that for
quite
some time. That's part of the reason I started studying that is because I was managing people.
Right.
And so, every company usually has somebody go through some personality tests,
Of course.
And I discovered that one a long time ago. I was like, oh, this one is like dead accurate.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are accurate in a sense, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, this describes how I behave. The Enneagram describes why you behave, which is different. And I haven't seen any other personality test that does that. But I like to figure out what motivates someone, right? Because one person could be motivated by, so like one person could be motivated to lead, like, okay, scenario, right? You're at a group meeting and it's like, we don't know what to do. Okay. One person might be motivated to take the lead on, volunteer to be a leader because they want the applause.
Right.
They want the recognition, the admiration. Right?
Yes.
Another person may be motivated to lead because he doesn't want anybody to mess with them. Right. I don't want you to mess this up.
Right.
Those are two totally different motivations, but the same behavior.
Yes.
And so teasing that stuff apart for me as a leader and as a manager and all that kind of stuff throughout my career has been really helpful because then I can pause and I can go, hold on. There's this conflict here. You're coming at it from this way. You're coming at it from this way. How can I tell the difference in that? How can I help resolve this so that we can move forward on our project, our company, and our whatever it is?
Yeah, if you know how each individual player works, it's better. Then it's easier to win a championship.
Totally. And what drives them, yeah.
Right. But what I was before we got on that, like I am very big into like astrology, and I'm big into like consciousness and evolution. And tell me what you think about this. An idea I had a long time ago was for the last 2,000 years, we've been under the consciousness of scarcity. There's a limited supply of resources on the planet. So all of the current constructs of this reality are based off of that. But we are evolving into a consciousness of abundance. And just like you were saying with that sharing and that gifting, that's what's happening right now. So imagine what we're witnessing right now with politics and money is we're watching the dissolution or the crumbling of that consciousness. And with crypto and AI and these new technologies, we're watching the blooming and blossoming of that consciousness. So let's imagine like 100 years from now, if robots, artificial intelligence, automation, if all these technologies grew the food, delivered the food, and everything was like on autopilot, we would be, and you could go to, let's say, Whole Foods, and you could get anything that you wanted. You wouldn't take more than you need when you're under that consciousness of abundance. And it goes back to that sharing type of mindset. And so, again, going back to that book that I'm reading, it's based off of the Mayan calendar. And the Mayan calendar was really tracking the evolution of consciousness and how it goes through these 9 dimensions. The 9th being the galactic, where we lead the planet. And that's why you'd have people like Elon Musk and these huge pioneers or magnates of industry. That's why they're focused on leading the planet.
This is so funny. Like in the Enneagram, the goal of it is to transcend it.
Yes, of course.
To transcend, and you transcend it through the dark personality. Yeah.
So there's 9 personalities too. I mean, dude, I'm telling you, is that as above, so below, as within, so without, like this reality, it's 100%.
I struggle a little bit with that concept that that we would shift to this model of abundance, that because what you're describing is each according to their need. That's communism, right? it's originally, and that's a value that's inherent to communism. It's not a bad value, right? So let me be clear. It's like, I'm not saying that, right? But maybe I think what you're getting at is maybe we never, because under the scarcity thing, I could totally see under scarcity, there's always going to be an imbalance of power.
Right.
There's always going to be a threat to survival. Each according to the, I don't know.
And isn't like Marxist communism, it's that the state determines what everyone's needs are.
Yeah, because the state owns the means of production.
Right. Well, what if that,
There's no private property outside of what the state does, and state controls it all.
I think that the state will be abolished because the state is built on those same fundamental values of greed, corruption, manipulation.
Yeah, I don't, but those values are inherent in human beings. So I don't know.
Great point.
I don't know that we'll ever escape that, right? I do think that if I think about the state of affairs today,
But aren't they, excuse me to cut you off, but aren't they they're only dominant right now because we are in that consciousness of scarcity. Whereas those others would wake up when we're in a different consciousness. Whereas just like right now, I know I could kill someone, but it's lying dormant within me.
all right, so think about this though. Where are examples that exist today where people are in a state of abundance, where they actually have shifted to that mindset?
Well, I would say there is no culture that they are totally in that.
Like, I'm thinking of monks. I'm thinking of like,
Yes, okay, and I see what you're saying. And also, like, let's say,
like they've given up worldly possessions.
right. What about tribal people? Like those,
They still scarce though. Like, they still have to hunt for the food. They still have to.
Yeah, and they actually source leaders, and they have.
There's still people still sort themselves into hierarchy. Like, that's again a human thing to do.
And what I've noticed is the same thing we're talking about now, and I relate everything to movies because that's just what I seem to do. But have you guys seen the Divergent series?
Oh yeah, I actually just
the four factions. I mean, that's the same thing that they're going through. And then the last one, the Divergents, are the ones that are waking up and realizing that you don't need all of that shit. And that's exactly, they're like perfect or whatever. And that's exactly what we're all going through right now, is like realizing, like, people are waking up and realizing, like, why do we need this government? Like, I don't hate Chinese people and Chinese people don't hate me. I don't hate Russian people and Russian people don't hate me. It's like, I've met plenty of people from Russia. I've met plenty of people from China, and it's not like they're like, I hate you. It's all that is just marketing. And
this story, the agency, we did a story on this lady named Shaolan Su, and she is the creator of if you want to learn Chinese, it's called Chinesey. Nice. And it's she makes it super fun, right? It's these little animations, and it's meant for kids and for adults. But her whole thing was like, she created it because she wanted to find a way to unite the East and the West through language, because the language is such a huge barrier for Western civilizations, right? And understand where the language came from and what do the symbols mean, and like, okay, look, why is it shaped that way, right? So then, I can understand the symbols, I can understand the culture, because the culture is embedded in the language.
Yeah,
the good and the bad of the Chinese culture. And she acknowledged that, and so because she's like, I don't want us to kill each other.
right. Her purpose was wow.
It did really well. I mean, it's done Microsoft,
Wow.
And she spoke at the storytelling conference that we would participate in each year, and yeah, she's fantastic. There are people that's been my experience with people from the East, is like there's a lot more family orientation. There's a lot, I was talking to Z, our chief marketing officer, the other day. He's from Wuhan, and we had this really great conversation. I'm like, dude, I see so much warmth and so much like familial bonding, And he's like, yeah, it's unfortunate because we sort of get characterized as this culture that's like militant discipline, and like, and like cold and uncaring and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I don't see it. Like, I see the discipline, right? That's certainly a value.
Yeah, of course.
My kids go to put them at private school because they cannot do the public school system. And all of their friends, all of their best friends are Chinese.
Oh, wow.
And so we hang out there Jen's families and stuff like that. And it's just totally, the spirit of it's there, right? Because they're human beings, of course, and human beings usually care.
Yeah, I mean, to Ken's point is that, and the more this show unravels, the more it wakes me up to, what if it's all a lie? All of everything we've gone through the media, because I've never been there. And what you were saying is, at the end of the day, we're all humans, and we all want the same thing. We all want love. We all want peace. We don't want to kill each other. It is those people at the top that are possessed by greed and corruption. Those are the ones that are manipulating the masses through the media propaganda to hate each other.
Totally. So if you think about, and go back to like the belief story language, right? So we form beliefs in one of two ways. We form them through our personal experiences, right? But we also form them through the stories that we're told.
Right.
I'm sure you've read The Four Agreements by Doug, right? And he talks about how we're living in a dream, right? And we believe all these things that we were told, right? Or that we experienced. But within those beliefs that we collect that become our belief system, right? It's amazing how people are so unaware right? Because we already reinforce that bubble. We already do, right? And in the more recent years, more of us are becoming aware of how much that bubble is reinforced by what we consume, right? And the algorithms in particular feed back to us. Now it's been years and years now, right? And they think that's what we're seeing now with so how divided things are, crazily divided things are. It's this net effect of not only my self-reinforcing loop, right? But what I click on gets fed back. Then it gets fed back, right? And so that belief system just really gets completely hardened.
Mental seize.
Yeah. And then exactly, then you have the memes or in full cassette out, here's the next current thing, right?
Right.
Putting into the head.
Yeah, every time I log on, all current events, you have your white ring friends and they have a comment on something, and then like you scroll down to the left wing, and it's the exact same thing that's in the news. They just regurgitate
the talking points that I'm supposed to say, right? And then you have all the bots, right? That's the part. So you have the people doing it, but at scale, you have
all bots reinforcing.
I've been off social media for years. I killed it. I always downloaded Twitter again recently because Elon is wanted to sort of see, well, I guess technically I'm not off of social media. I do enjoy Reddit, but I enjoy Reddit because I can control it. Right? It's like I'm here in this specific thread because I'm interested in the Green Bay Packers.
Right.
And then I still
let's go.
As an owner, I'm interested in the Green Bay Packers. So but it's funny, like just even being aware of it, like getting back on Twitter is wild. And having not been on it for years, like 5 years or so, getting back on it and just seeing how immediately I'm just like every third or fourth thing that was in my feed were people fighting, like physically fighting.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, so you're a guy, you're a white guy in his 40s, so you must like fighting videos. Let me recommend all these, and like had no algorithmic data on me at all for 5 years. The first thing it was doing was just saying people kicking the shit out of each other. Saying, why?
Well, and Gary brought this point up to me, and it's great, is politics like the ISR or Sauron.
Yeah.
Or Lord of the Rings. Like, it happens to me all the time too. Like, there'll be days that I look at, I'll be like, oh, what's this? And I just click on a funny meme. And next thing you know, it's like an hour and a half later, and I'm like reading comments of like people fighting and like fighting with them. And I'm just like, what am I doing? I don't even fucking care about this,
Yeah.
But just attention, like they grab it so quick, and you're like, oh, fuck.
That's what it wants.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when TikTok came out, I mean, how unbelievably fast that algorithm is. Yeah. It's unbelievably fast. Right. I mean, Twitter and Instagram and all those things when they're showing recommended things. YouTube, I think, was the fastest bet. TikTok, it just smokes them all.
Yeah, I still have never been on that one. So
don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. I got on, I was just like,
Yep.
The crazy thing is that everyone knows that algorithms are supposed to gain their attention and keep them locked in, and they still fucking do it. That's the dopamine.
Right. It's they need that validation because it's also, what you were saying about this bubble that we live in, and it just reinforcing it makes me think of the book, The Sovereign Individual.
Mm.
And in that it talks about, at the end of the nation state, they are going to use all of their power because they know in the end they're losing it. So they're going to throw everything they've got. But as we've, I think, concluded, is that it's going to crash under the weight of its own corruption.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's when the bubble pops. And I foresee, because when the dollar, it is a mathematical certainty.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
When it goes to zero, the lights go out.
So I used to work for this hedge fund manager named Damon Nickers, and he wrote The Day After the Dollar Crashes.
Oh wow, that's a power.
And he wrote that. He wrote that back in the early 2000s.
Wow.
And so, and he was a very hard person to work for, but it's very brilliant.
Yeah.
He was a hedge fund manager, and he day traded. And he followed this school of thought and trading called it's from Richard Dennis. It's called the Turtle Traders. Have you ever heard of the Turtle Traders? Mm-hmm. They were trend followers. And he had this mathematical system where he could predict breakouts up or down. And so Damon followed this system, and he's one of the big winners in the 2008 financial crisis.
Oh wow.
Jordan Bear Stearns.
Wow. Bear Stearns?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Hell of a play. Just like, but he fought, he saw these trends, right?
Right.
And I think from those trends, he's gone to the same conclusion. Like, there's no way at some point, maybe we don't know when,
right?
But this is what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to go, and it's going to be replaced with something else. And I think that, obviously the Fed's trying to do stable coin, whatever bullshit that is. The SEC is always trying to go after all the crypto people and call it a security so that they can regulate it. Obviously they're doing everything they can, right? Mm-hmm. The problem is, I think with crypto right now is that anybody can make one. There's a million of them now, right? It's like, I got my own coin, right? Okay. It's getting easier to trade them. It's getting easier to convert that way. But now you've got this massive currency market that everything's fluctuating all the time, right? So the investment of time of an individual in order to, and I think you guys should try to follow that with your app, right? And you have people, but as it grows, it's going to just get more complicated and it's right. So there's going to need to be some sort of consolidation at some point, right? Look, there's certain players are really going to have to emerge and become truly stable.
Yeah.
And I think that probably Bitcoin will get there first. That's when there's more being mined, and I think that because right now, if you think the same thing about fractional reserve banking, right? The money supply increases, right? With the more securities that we sell.
Yeah.
Right. The more, so the money supply increases, right? And then you have all these fluctuations as a result of it. When you're on a gold standard, right? With no fractional reserve banking, it's fixed.
Right.
And so in that kind of economy, and it's happened in history, prices tend to go down.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that once Bitcoin, whoever gets there first, where there's no more that can be mined, this is it. It's done. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think you probably would start to see a little bit of stability coming into the market because, there's all so much of it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think before we get there, though, to your point earlier, is I don't think that the government or the Fed has the manpower or the brain power to build a solid blockchain.
Just so far behind.
Oh, so far. Yeah. But they want you to think that we're right on top of it, guys.
Oh, it's stable.
Right. And so I think that their whole world is crumbling, and while it's crumbling, they're trying to patch it all up, and they've got these spokespeople that go on TV saying, hey, don't worry, everything's all right, as the freaking banks are collapsing behind them.
Well, that's exactly why they're trying to distract us.
Oh my gosh, with the Bud Light, it's all a distraction. It's all a distraction. Hey, look over here while I stab you in this freaking back.
I'm trying to cover up
Right.
If you get into Peter Schweitzer has been documenting this for years, the government corruption. So if you think about you think about the Ukraine war right now, right? Now, I'm about as anti-war as a libertarian. I'm about as anti-war as you can be.
100%.
And so even if you take that position of like, I'm just against the war, they're like, well, what about Ukraine, right? And my friends on the left are like, these people, this is Putin's doing all this and blah, 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 blah. It's like, yeah, but have you dug into the Biden's activity in Ukraine? And do you know the kind of millions and millions of dollars that are disappearing through Roosevelt Seneca and like all these things, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, the simple fact that America has killed more innocent men, women, and children in the last 23 years than all countries combined.
Well, because of all the wars that we started.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and Iran is still on the list.
Yeah.
We haven't got to Iran yet.
Yeah.
It's on the list. I mean, there's that general that was interviewed a few years ago, and he's like, he's like, I'm sitting, whatever, like then 9/11 happens, and he's like 6 months out of 9/11, he's like, I'm getting a briefing saying, yeah, we're going to go to war with Iraq. And he's like, we are? He's like, yeah, we plan to start we want to take out these 7 countries over the next 5 years. And it's like Syria and Libya and all this stuff.
Like, well, dude, and all the stuff coming out about Libya, that Gaddafi wasn't as bad as we've been told, that like they had free water, free food, free school.
He was setting up a gold-backed currency too.
Yep.
To do trade. And so same with Iraq was starting to trade oil in euros right before it all went down. So anytime any country goes, but the interesting thing is now with the BRICS and the unification of the Middle East, and that unification being brokered by Asia, China, and Russia, it's they're now saying, hey, guess what? We don't have to do what you're telling us anymore.
The only trump card that the United States has, and I'm a citizen, so I would say us, right, is our military.
For sure. Yeah.
Because it's like,
it's backed by force.
It's backed by force.
Right.
We're the biggest dude on the block.
Right.
Well, the top 10 countries were spending $600 billion combined. We were spending that every year.
Right.
Well, so I was in the Navy. So the interesting thing to think about it. So an aircraft carrier fully loaded, right, with the air wing fully armed, right, is the 4th most powerful country in the world. Just one.
Just one?
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit.
We've got 5.
Whoa. And they're already strategically positioned.
Exactly. So if you think about, the only way to take us down is from within. That's it. Right. So if you're China, if you're any of these other, you have to take us down economically.
Exactly.
That's the only real tool that they have. And so, between digital currency, like our system, like that, it's ultimate economic collapse that will run us into this country, and then we'll start over, and then somebody war will get evaded, and we won't be able to fuel the carriers or whatever, make the bombs.
I think that would be interesting. Is that's why I think China's moving so quickly now, because I think they really got that America is against the ropes. Because again, the day after the dollar dies, is that when the dollar dies, no one works. If no one works, then there is no military.
Right.
Because the people in the military are working for a paycheck.
Or what happens is the military becomes the ruler because they have power. And
here's one like a coup.
Yeah, like a coup or just Hunger Games. Think about the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Right. So tying it back to the right, if in the actual story, I don't really get into it in the movie. The actual story is when District 13, when the uprising happened, in District 13, the capital actually surrendered to District 13 because District 13 was the military. And they're held in right? But what they said is they said in order for us to have peace, right? You have to make it look like we'll just our ways, and we have to make it look like we won.
Right.
So District 13 bombed themselves because they had the military, right? And then disappeared. And then obviously eventually would come back, and of course in the movie thought, right, come back and try to overthrow the capital successfully. But that's the kind of stuff you think about. It's like, oh, we don't have any money, but I have all the guns, right? We're always I'm not going to give up these guns now. Hey,
I wonder how many people will just like quit. Let's say Pareto, 80%, you know. But then also every other country too. So like China, Russia, because they're all pegged. They're all run on the same system. So once the dollar domino falls, they all fall too. So I think that the world will go into this period of darkness where we'll just be like kind of anarchy in the sense of no rulers.
Right.
Because when that dollar collapses, all those politicians, their heads are the first in the guillotine.
Yeah. All right. I want to go back to the part where you said the day after the dollar ends, no one goes back to work. I think, and I didn't even realize this until I went to my mom's corporate event. Because like you and I are corporate guys, right? Like we've never been. But I've never seen a group of people so fucking jacked to do their job. And like one guy, so we got, what was it? Service manager of the year. His name's Toby. He's worked at my mom's work since he was 18 years old. He could leave and make triple his salary in other states. But because he loves it, and he shows up an hour early every day and works an hour for free every single day. And I think there's a lot more fucking people like him than there is like me and you.
For sure.
And that's why like door-to-door sales was so interesting to me, because I could tell somebody in their own fucking house to take their shoes off and they would.
Right.
And I think that there'll be a lot of people like people that do the power, like even if they're not getting paid because they've been doing the same fucking thing every day for 25 years, they're going to continue to do that same fucking thing. Like they're going to go clean up the green belt, or they're going to go...
Not when the bubble pops. When the bubble pops, it will be such a paradigm shift for everyone. Because it goes back to like the Enneagram.
Yeah.
It is that guy, Toby, is motivated by, like, I'm definitely not motivated by accolades or applause. I'm not motivated by that stuff at all. I'm motivated by the Chinesey. Big purpose. Like, I want to overthrow the empire in a civil, disobedient way. And so, like, that's why obviously like crypto and stuff like that, I want to show people, hey, if we were to all band together and boycott the dollar, boycott fiat currencies, we could win. We have that power. But like you said, 99.9% of people, they're plugged right into the matrix. But so when that bubble pops, they're not going to know what to do.
And I think you're correct. I think for a period of time, they're not going to know what to do. I do think, though, people will go back to work and it's not look the same, right? So go back into the tribe things, right? It's like, we still have to survive.
Yes, of course.
I think you're going to have, it's going to look a lot more local.
Yes.
People are going to go, how do we trade? How do we sort of exist as a community for the people I know? And it's, it's bartering. It's,
what value do we each provide to the community? Right. Yeah, I'm right there with you.
I'm not down with communism at all, but communalism is interesting.
Yeah.
Those are really different. They're, they're often characterized to be the same thing, but they're not.
Yeah.
Right. Down with the sickness.
But I mean, again, like, think about it. Again, the day after the dollar dies, every store is completely wiped out.
No doubt.
And look, we already saw what happened.
We're happening now. Yeah.
Yes, right now.
Especially in cities where they don't really enforce.
Oh my God, it's crazy.
Think about these rates.
Yeah.
Right. And they just walk out.
Yeah.
I think I just recently saw a video. Gal went to go buy some food, and the whole grocery store was torn the fuck apart. And she's all, we do this to ourselves, y'all, and it was on like TikTok or something. It was Chicago was the city that she was in. And I'm like, damn, dude.
I've seen videos of people in Walmart just eating straight up.
Yeah.
Like they don't.
I've seen it in the liquor store just.
Oh, really? Yeah. Because I mean, again, we saw what we've already got a taste. In fact, they've already, I don't know what we want to call them, but like the Bill Gates, like with eugenics, like they want to eradicate 80% of the population because they think that it'll be easier to control, but it's going to backfire on them. But we've already got a taste, and you just mentioned it when the COVID thing first popped up. look how irrational the masses were that they went and tried to get toilet paper instead of food.
Yeah.
So, man, the day after, when it happens, I call it a period of darkness. I'm with you, is that after what's going to happen is
Reconstruction, it has to happen.
right. But before it's reconstructed, there's going to be chaos like no one on the planet has ever seen.
Because the most valuable thing that you can have,
The Dark Ages.
yeah, I think the most valuable thing you have is land.
Oh, land. But also, what's the point of land if you don't know how to survive on the land? So skills. Because once the food is gone, those people run right through all that food because that food is not nutrient dense. That's when the zombies will come out because, man, we've never, at least in the last 100 years in this country, we've never experienced starvation. So wait until people are eating their own family members because they're so starving.
And that's happened. That town in Wisconsin that fucking froze. And
I haven't heard of this.
oh yeah, and there was a town in Wisconsin in like the 50s that everything, like they had the longest winter ever, and it was like they weren't getting any food. And so the town started like bartering their own kids for food or like, and weird shit. Like, and the only reason why I know the only reason why I know about it is because Kevin's little brother's band is named after the town. They're like a horror folktale band or something, but yeah, he was telling me all about it. But yeah, that was within the last 100 years, you know, that happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be crazy.
I do. Yeah. So, I mean, how should one prepare? I think skills for sure. Even if you live in the city, like learning how to grow food, 100%. Just like, okay, you know, here's how you grow food. Learning how to hunt, right? You know, whether that's bow, whether that's guns or whatever it is, like whether or not people agree politically with, you know, whatever it is, right? Those are just basic things.
That shit's not going to matter though.
All your ideals are going to change when the shit hits the fan. Yeah, well, it's definitely. My biggest thing is,
And also now you're competing against all the other people who already know how to do that.
exactly. So that's why you don't even want to. You want to have supplies so you can just stay in your house for 30 days. Oh, yeah. I don't even have to leave. I have 6 months. There you go. So me, like I got a couple of years. I got a garden. So I'm just gonna shit hits the fan. I've even thought about getting, you know, 3/4 inch plywood. I'm gonna board the whole first level. I got 2 balconies. I'm just hanging out because that would.
He's in 2 empty houses right next to him. Just go take over them and block them.
Because if you do not know how to survive, that is when you will have to fight for survival. Right? If you're not prepared, like you will be fighting for your life,
and you'll be a target.
100%.
You know people like they're like I've met people that are like, I don't need to prep for anything. I just need to have all the guns. I'm like, you're an idiot. First of all.
Oh. Yeah,
you know, it's like, I'll just go take it from everybody else. That's so dumb. But that's the mindset of some people.
Exactly.
So now they're gonna just go look to exploit others.
Right.
What if you watch any like a movie of the end of the world shit? And I can't remember the name of the movie now, but it was actually a pretty good flick where a guy and a woman got married, and then she goes off to some trip or whatever, and he's with the stepfather or her father. And the end of the world shit happens, and they both make a plan to go get her. And it's like the story that they go through of crossing the country to go try to find her. And it's a great flick, but I think it's Ashton Kutcher and fucking the black guy with the fucked up eye. That's a great actor.
Yeah, dang it. Smoke Dog.
Yeah.
That's another movie he was in, but
he's a great fucking actor.
He was in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yes,
the star football player.
Yeah, he's great. But anyways, they're trying to cross the country or whatever. And it may be like an Ashton Kutcher lookalike. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've seen it. But there's one scene where there's like an old lady that's broken down on the side of the road, and the dad's like, "Fuck her. Nobody else matters but my daughter right now." And he's like, I have to stop. And so he pulls over to help this old lady out, and fucking like 4 of her kids can steal their car, bash their heads, kidnap them, steal all their shit. And he's like, motherfucker, I told you. And then it's like, you know, them still like trying to get over that, find a new car, then get to the daughter. And he finally does make it to her, which is crazy. And it's like some guy had turned her into his girlfriend.
Right.
She was using him for survival. And yeah, it was like
People will do wild shit.
Yeah.
Under desperate circumstances.
They're already doing that. Look at like the people who are selling their souls on OnlyFans.
yeah.
So it's already happening. Ken also tells me that you are into AI.
Yeah. So I've got my dream is a very boring one. And that is to develop a project management app that doesn't suck.
Okay, nice.
So much knowledge work is waste. It's just inherently wasteful. And I wanted to create something for a long time that really solves problems that really fundamentally haven't been solved in business. And a lot of those have to do with waste. And so one of my clients up in Seattle is a guy by the name of Jeff Cause, and he's got a manufacturing firm called Cause Taylor, and they do like all the interiors for Boeing planes, where they do all the upholstery, seats and all that kind of stuff. And he studied he went to Japan a bunch, just studied lean manufacturing. And when we were working with them, our agency was called Belief Agency. So we started at the belief part. And we would try to uncover people's beliefs and what's underneath the thing that you're trying to do, derive the purpose from, right? And then we build a brand on that, right? And I got burned out on the agency life. My buddy John owns the agency now, and he's doing great work. But we do these things called these belief sessions, right? And we got to Jeff and was like, "What do what is it?" He's like, "Well, I believe that waste is evil." We're like, "Wow, why?" And he's like, "Because it robs people of their joy." Well, and he's manufacturing furniture, right? And to have that thing underneath of it, like to get to that level of clarity, like I want to bring more joy into the world. That's my purpose. And the way that I do that is by removing waste.
Yeah.
In processes and whatever, right? So learned a ton from him. And then I realized that, in project management, it's so inherently wasteful. So I started attacking it from that angle. And we've come up with an idea that we have a prototype on and try to raise money on. I've got a 150-page, slide deck and all that kind of stuff. It's called Cards. And it's project management that's like feeling like playing a game with your friends. And what drives the interaction beneath it is you take the human elements, all these transactions and exchanges that we have, right? And we use AI and algorithms to bring those things together in a more efficient way. And then machine learning on top of that will then start adapting the system. So really, it's like this idea is that you shouldn't be a slave to your software, right? Software should serve you. Software in service, not a software as a service. And so one of our values is as a company is assistance. So it's like the best assistant that you ever had, right? So now when you're like, oh, like Jalen and I, right? She wants to I need to review something, right? So the system automates those interactions. So right now the way it works is that, hey, and Mark's need you to review this video. So then she'll post it up on Slack, and then she's got to tell me that she posted it there. And then if I don't get to it, then she'll text me or walk into my office, right? And then now I saw it, then I'll go there and then here's my feedback and like, hey, by the way, my comments are in, right? So all of that extra work, or the back and forth, just notifying somebody. Think about the amount of mini choke points it's everywhere, right? So instead, there's a card system where I have an action card. She has an action card to complete this video. And then when that's created, it automatically creates a review card that is assigned to me. Mm-hmm. And then there's interactions there, right, between the two. But that review card wasn't created by somebody else. It was created by the system based on this other thing, right? Mm-hmm. And we've got a scale. We'll have somewhere north of 50 or 60 different card types that all serve everything from finance to. So imagine this. Here's the scenario. We get the video done, right? And now we get to bill for the video. Okay. Well, think about all the work that it takes to notify the finance person that hey, this is done. So you have a bunch of intermediaries, right? So Caitlin sends the video to me, approve, right? And then I approve it. And then now the project manager knows that the video is approved. It goes to the customer who then has to approve it. Goes back to the project. Right? So the project manager tells the account manager to take it to the customer. That happens. Right? Account manager says, "Cool." Now we're back to the project manager who then goes and tells finance. Well, like just in that really, really simple scenario, all these different touch points that inherently make a business inefficient.
Yeah.
Right. So if software could just connect all those dots, right, so that it's there when it's done. So now I'm done with my video card, my action card. It's reviewed and it's complete and it's approved. That triggers automatically an invoice card that tells finance this is good to go. He's done the invoice. So now you just eliminate like a bunch of steps, and that's what waste is, right? You eliminate a bunch of steps, and then your business is that much more efficient.
Yeah.
Whoa. And so now you have the opportunity with AI is then now within those interactions, how can we leverage chat GPT tech tooling and those kind of things to even extend that further? So what I'm talking about is algorithms, right? But then now how do we improve those algorithms? How do we learn from how people actually use all this, right? Like for instance, if I'm stuck on something and Ken can help me, I just, in my card, I just go ask, there's a help button, it says help. And it's like, who do you need help from? I need help from Ken. What do I need help with? That automatically generates a card that hits his queue stack, right? And then it sets mine to block. And I'm going to wait until, because I can't move forward, right? And so then he gets one that's in his, and he goes, oh yeah, I can help with that, right? Now, or I can't help with that. And then he asks for help. Hey, Gary, ask for help from you.
You'd be better at this than I am.
Yeah. So now it creates this sort of like ladder effect, right? So now you're like, yeah, I can do it. You resolve it. He resolves it. I'm free.
Yeah.
And it automated that whole thing instead of people searching.
Or it doesn't even go back to you. It just goes right into the project.
It unblocks me from the thing that I'm trying to get done.
Damn.
Right. So, and it's all of these little micro interactions that managing that stuff is managed primarily through tools like Slack and email. Right. And even now, like if you look at any of the, Asana, if you're familiar with these pieces of software, Monday, right? It's all comments, right? Communication and lists and columns, and and you have to manage all of that complexity. It's really, really hard on business.
That made me think of my favorite quote by my favorite general, Marcus Aurelius: "Don't be ashamed to ask for help."
Yeah. So here's where really impacts the business is now when delays happen. So this invoice card, right? When delays happen, nobody, like the communication just to tell the finance person is one thing, right? But that date that invoice is supposed to go out, which is tied to a payment, all of the stuff then shifts this out. Yeah. Right. And this is what I experienced managing a service-based business is that, well, if I can't collect my payment when I expect to, my cash flow drops. Yeah. So I'm trying to manage to the cash flow, but I don't even know because the operational side of the business is not connected necessarily to the financial side of the business. And so project managers, by default, the client says, well, I'll get that to you. I can't do it this week. I'll get it to you 2 weeks from now. And they're like, oh, fine. That's fine. Right. But if the finance person was sitting in that conversation, they're going, no, that delays our payment by 2 weeks. And that's $100,000 thing. That's going to really negatively impact our business. Right. Yeah. So staying on top of those things requires a true hub of connecting all the dots together. And that's what we're making. And and using AI to then optimize that over time and just make it that much better is what we're doing.
How long do you think it will be? In the example that you gave, Kate sends you over a video to review. How long until AI knows your personality, can review the video for you and give notes based on your past notes?
I don't think it's that long, honestly. Because I don't think it's that long for AI as a construct to be able to get there.
How far do you think until humans can trust AI to do that, though? That might take longer than the AI reporting.
No.
So the red, what? Oh man, it just stopped though.
Nice. Well, so I have a friend who owns a marketing agency. They primarily do video. Mm-hmm. Within the first week of ChatGPT, they fired 2 of their script writers
It's really, really good, man.
I use it
It's
all.
really, really good.
We appointed ChatGPT as the CEO of our company.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. So it's like, it's only a matter of time. And to your point, like I already trust it. I trust it 100%.
Yeah, me too. But I'm saying most people
It still has bias though.
Yeah.
Oh, it's very biased still.
Because it's derivative of history.
It's biased if you're asking it to have an opinion. If I'm just asking it to create me some copy for an email, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's what I'm primarily using it for.
I think that's what we want to use it for. I was watching this. I think I told you this. I was watching this Canva tutorial where this guy was mass producing Instagram posts. So he was like, "Hey, ChatGPT, give me 10 quotes of like health and happiness." And he went into Canva, and then he just found a template, and then he was able to populate those 10, right? But a funny thing is, like, that could be 1,000. Easily 1,000, right? Now, here's the problem, though. This is, because it gets back to the bubble, right?
Yep.
So, I don't know the answer to this, but my guess is, because I know technology, my guess is every time ChatGPT or Bard or any of these AI tools, these chat tools, when they generate a response, there's a record of that.
Right.
Right. So even if I'm regenerate, right? There's still data that's, because it's being displayed.
The record.
It's stored on a server on a table somewhere.
Right.
Because it's being displayed. Now, would the AI be able to recognize its own authorship?
I hope so.
I hope so, right? Because if it can't, or if it's made to not recognize its own authorship, then the inherent bias within it is going to bias everything. Right.
Great point.
Because now when you start,
it's not learning.
It's not right now. It's not learning anymore. Right. So you have to be able to find nope, that was generated by AI. Yeah. That was generated by humans.
Right.
I have a client that's a high school teacher at BK, and she said that every essay, she said for a while there, she was making everyone write everything by hand. But then she said now she just learned that she can take their whole essay, copy and paste it into the ChatGPT, and then say, "Did you write this?" And it'll pop up and say, "Yes, I did."
But the good students are taking that and putting it in another software that's putting into their language how they write, and now they have it will write in their own handwriting.
Whoa.
So it gets around all that stuff.
Well, and then does ChatGPT recognize bards?
Bingo. Yeah.
Right.
So what happens when there's other AIs?
Other AIs, right? And so the challenge that I have with this is that I think that it's really great for us because it's something that we never had before.
Right.
Right. It's like I didn't grow up with a cell phone. I'm old enough that I'm still Gen X.
Yeah, me too. I
grew up with my house. I had the rotary phone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then we got the touch tone phone, right? My phone number, because I grew up in North Idaho, was 5 digits.
Whoa. Damn.
No area code, no,
Oh yeah.
And then they introduced the next 2 digits, right? Because the phone systems were getting, it was like, okay, cool. I got to remember 6 digits now or 7 or whatever it is. But then acquiring that technology, it's like, wow, this is amazing, right? Like for example, like the phone, the camera on the phone is so stupid now, shooting in 4K. ProRes, like all of this stuff. And I remember, because I've been in film for a long time, and just like how much money it would have taken even 5 years ago to produce images at the quality that is just on our phone now.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's crazy.
And we're spoiled, right? We're totally spoiled. But now it's even like, I'm amazed by it. But people who are younger, the younger filmmakers, they've always had this.
Right.
They've always had it, right? They didn't understand the struggle or the pain and went, wow, this is different, right? I think the same is true for AI. Right now, we're like, whoa, this is amazing. And the whole world's just going, cool, right? But what happens 15, 18 years from now where people who just grew up with it,
right?
Oh, I've always had this.
Yeah.
And now it's, I think it's going to push things further, but it's also going to dumb people down.
You think so? Or
because people are lazy.
Maybe.
So I saw a stat the other day that, and maybe it'll change. Maybe in this consciousness that you're talking about, maybe that aspect of human nature will change. But what history has taught us is that most people are compliant.
For sure.
Most people just want to go to work. They want to do their job. They want to go home. They want to watch TV. They want to hang out with their friends, right? And they don't really think beyond the NPC level, right? Because they don't really want to. And that's like, I think that's like 65, 70% of people. There's 30% of people out there that are creative.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think those are the people that are going to die off first because they don't have any skills.
Oh, for sure. If we're talking post-apocalyptic, for sure. Yeah. But let's say that we don't know when that is, right? And we're continuing our current state. If I take this out for a longer period of time, I think that the population, like the kids who are writing their essays and chat, right? Well, they didn't actually learn that information.
But that's my point, is that are we learning things that are already obsolete, that are no longer relevant now, and especially in the future? Like, my son's 8 years old. I don't think he'll have a car. Cars will be fully automated by then. I don't read, so why would I expect him to? I do everything and I'm an audio learner. So now I've learned that about myself.
Yeah, I'm an audio learner.
So like, why is my son learning how to read? It's already an obsolete thing to learn.
We did that with, because my kids they can read really well. And so we got all their books on Audible that they're required to read at school. And so now.
Oh, genius.
Right.
Oh, but he's 8 years old. They ain't got really very complicated books yet. But
well, my kids are 9 and 10.
Oh, okay.
Like you got to read whatever. I can't even remember the books that they make them read. But Charlotte's Web or whatever, it's on Audible.
Yeah,
all those books all the classic books that are required reading are there. So yeah, they just listen to them now.
But man, you brought up something really, really good that I didn't want to lose, and it's a freaking losing. Dang it. Dang it. And it had to do with that consciousness of mind.
Well, you're talking about, are we learning things that are no longer going to be relevant? But there are essential truths, right?
Oh, when you were saying most people are lazy,
yeah.
Is that because of the beliefs? We believe that go to school, then you got to get a job, and most jobs suck. Most people aren't living from a place of purpose. They're living from a place of survival.
But actually not anymore, because like everybody recognizes you don't have to struggle to get your next meal. I think that there's still that scarcity mindset for sure in it. That's why people are afraid to lose their jobs, right? That's the fear of it, because we're finite, right? But we still have abundance. And so in that abundance, right, I find a comfortable life. I want to stay there. And I think that that's sort of why people just end up driving to work, doing the same thing right? People with a curious mind, people who are entrepreneurial nature, creative in nature, it's the minority in the world, just the way it's been. And so those are the people that make things happen.
The divergence.
The divergence. Well, I think it's the curious. Like I think curiosity is a requirement for human flourishing.
Yeah. Is curiosity, though, the result of a belief?
Everything's a result of a belief.
Exactly. So maybe those of us that are curious and those of us that are entrepreneurial, we have a different belief.
Totally.
We had
positive feedback on our curiosity.
Yes.
Right. And then maybe other people aren't curious because they're like, ooh, that got me in trouble.
Right. That's a great point.
Well, one thing
talking phenomenology, right?
Yes.
One thing that you brought up though that was interesting, because I haven't studied I've only done the one test, right? No, I was the debater or whatever. But you asked you asked me a question like, do you do these things because you want somebody to acknowledge that you do them, or just because you want to win the game? And I just want to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't give a shit if anybody's like, hey, buddy, you're doing a great job. Like, that doesn't drive me to...
Yeah. So now think about somebody who doesn't want to do the thing, right? Like you're driven, but think about somebody who's fundamentally not.
Right.
Right. There's a different personality behind that, right? And when I teach the Enneagram, because I teach it whenever I do it in the corporate level or whatever, I expose the beliefs behind each of the personality types. Because my type is a type 8, and it's the challenger.
I'm a type 8.
Yeah, and it's the challenger, and I don't do it because I want the accolades. I do it because I want to win the game. I do it because I think it's fun to, to like, oh, and especially if somebody tells me I can't do it, I'm like, watch me, right?
Yep.
And then the other thing is like, I don't want people to fuck with me. I want my freedom. I want independence. I don't want, you to have to tell me what to do, but another personality type who's super compliant, right? I want you to tell me what to do, right? So that like a six is the loyalist, right? And they want to be told, they want an authority figure that they trust, that they've tested and vetted and verified that you're a trustworthy person. Now I feel loyal to you and I will just do whatever you say.
Mm-hmm.
And, until they do something that causes them to lose their trust, which they're always looking to see if this person is who they say they are. So they're fundamentally suspicious, right? Which is hilarious because then that suspiciousness then gets read as, well, you don't trust me. And then they create the very thing that they want to avoid.
Totally.
And all of us do, right?
Yes.
Is there a personality type that like more of the world's population, or is there do you run into a lot more of fours?
I haven't seen that. So I think that I haven't seen any statistics on it because I don't think anybody studied it.
Mm-hmm.
I do think, as I've observed throughout the years, I think that there are more of the Enneagram is broken into 3 subtypes, right?
Okay.
And the interesting thing about this is that they're connected to the 3 neurological centers of intelligence of the human body. And so you have the heart type, which is the emotional. That's in numbers 2, 3, and 4. And so that's the helper, the achiever, and the individualist, or the creative one, sometimes they call it. And they're all emotional. They're driven by emotion, and emotional center of the brain is the limbic system, right? So neurologically, that's where it's connected. And then you have the head types, which are 5, 6, and 7, and they're connected to the prefrontal cortex, and it's logic and it's all of that kind of stuff. And so the 5 is the investigator, the 6 is the loyalist, and the 7 is the adventurous one, right? And then you have the gut type, which is 8, 9, and 1, and that's connected to instinct, and that is the sense perception coming up through the basal ganglia. And the interesting thing about it is that all of us have aspects of all 9. There's some of the 1 in all of us, right? To what degree that is working, right, is active or emphasized through your experience, right? We all sort of resonate and land in one area that we emphasize, right? So 1s are very compliant because they are the perfectionists, right? I want the system to be perfect. And so when they're not compliant, it's because they are trying to reform something, right? And so I don't know, as I've seen it come up, right? So with the rise of social media, the heart people, right? Because what they're doing, the people with 2, 3s, and 4s, they're creating an image. Fundamentally, that's what they're doing. How they negotiate the world is they creating an image or crafting an image of a presentation of how I want you to perceive me, right? So I want you to perceive me as helping so that you'll love me. I want you to perceive me as a winner, right? So that you admire me, right? As I achieve something, right? I want you to perceive me as sort of this individual, unique and special person because I want you to accept me. And so, right now with the rise of social media and that feedback loop, I think there's more and more, I think, of the younger generation who's lived with it, right? And who've been exposed to it, especially early on. There's a lot more of that. And I think that's why you see a lot more, I think you see it's already been connected to suicide rates, especially in girls, right? The suicide rate amongst teenage girls has increased with the rise of social media. I think that and I don't know enough. I don't know enough to fully form an opinion on this, but I think the sort of the gender stuff that's going on is, again, it's image making. Right, and I think you see, especially amongst the transgender youth community, you see a lot more 4 type behavior. Right, I'm unique, I'm special, nobody will accept me, so therefore I'm going to craft, right, this sort of deal and take on this mantle of this thing, when probably it was just, they were probably exposed to social media, too early, And now, they're on TikTok. You think about the negative effects of that. That's why I think that some would call it a social contagion, and that's part of the reason why.
I would agree. I would, because again, going back to that image,
And not you believe that, the postmodern view of gender or anything like that. That's, I'm not making an opinion on that. I just see that I see way more of this happening because of those driving factors.
Because in the end, they're looking for an emotion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm creating this image because I yearn for love, validation, acceptance.
Yep.
And because I didn't get that, I need to form this image and project it out into the world to try to get that. And then when they don't get it, or conversely, they get criticized or something like that, it's like, oh, I'm out of here.
Right. Absolutely.
Interesting.
So I've seen more of that. I see less fives in the investigators.
Of course, asking questions. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Plenty of sixes, but a lot less eights these days, I think, too. We tend to run in the same circles, so we all see each other a lot. It's no coincidence that
oh my god, of course
we would all find each other, right?
Right. Yeah, challenger can't be with someone because you challenge everything.
Yeah.
Hey, I question. I don't believe anything until I've done my own research. So
my wife is she we've been married for over 21 years now, and she's trying to get me healthier because I make bad choices. I drink and I smoke cigars and whatever. And so she's trying to get me to take these supplements. And she's like, will you do it? And I'm like, probably not. And so the other day she's like, I really want you to take this thing. Will you do it? Yeah, I will. She's like, that's a big step for you.
I'm like, what is she?
She's a 5.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, so she does, 5.
And it's
5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
She investigator.
Yeah.
So she does the research on the supplements because she wants you to be. I've done all this research for you, babe.
Yeah.
All right.
Why not? Yeah.
You're making huge steps. Thank you. That is awesome.
That's so annoying.
That's wild, man. Well, man, it's been a great one. Let me ask you this: like, where do you think things are going to be like 10 years from now? Just going on again trends and trajectory.
Boy, it's tough to say because it really depends upon the structure of power. That's the first place that I'm going to look to see where things break down. If the alliance of the trinity of the media, right, and the government and really advertising dollars, right, if that stuff stays intact, it could be a while. We may not see a lot of progress. It would take a catastrophic event to really break things down. And I don't think anybody wants that. I think the power still wants to work in the shadows, right?
Of course.
And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you're Republican or Democrat, right? They're all in the same team,
right?
They want to keep the culture distracted with culture wars and things like that. So that it's like crazy if you think about it. The Pelosi's in Taiwan, right? Biden's in Ukraine, but you go back, all the war stuff started under the Bush administration. So it's all, they're all in on it.
Bush and Cheney, and they were Middle East.
Yeah. They were all
Halliburton. Right.
Yeah.
That's so,
There's just so many, there's so many, if you think about institutions and you start classifying, you think about, the military industrial complex. Okay, got that, right? So everybody knows that, right? So they want war so they can, but then now we have a medical industrial complex.
Right.
Right, which is really a pharmaceutical industrial complex.
Right.
And just thinking about how the formation and collusion of these institutions working together, right, in order to sort of advantage off of society, and then the media, right, trying to keep people distracted. It's going to take either a massive awakening, or it's going to take some sort of true crisis. Like COVID wasn't a true, it was a manufactured crisis. I do believe COVID was real. I'm not going, but it was something that the powerful do. This is an opportunity for us to gain an advantage, right? For us to leverage this moment to, deepen our ability to do whatever.
Yeah.
And so it would take, the thing that they don't want would be a true civil war.
Right.
And it would take something like that. That I think that's why they flirt with trying to ban assault rifles, and they have the rhetoric around it, but they don't actually do it.
Right.
Because if they actually did it, you know, you would really start to divide things. And we're already so divided now, but it's, you know, if they're like, we're going to come take all your guns or whatever it is, it's like,
Well,
And over my dead body.
yeah, I mean, and they peck away at it though. You know what I mean?
It's
Yeah,
incremental change for sure.
Because they've done that up in Canada, you know, and all the things in Australia. Australia used to have the second most amount of guns.
1996, I think it was, that they banned.
And I think that there's a lot of people here that, I mean, even when I was down in Texas, I talked to quite a few people that used to be all for guns, but, you know, they're like, oh, all the school shootings. And I was like, you have a better shot at fucking getting bit by a shark than you do getting shot by...
But that's the media thing, right? And so it's coming into the awareness that, oh, that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it's going to take to really advance the ball. You know, asking what's going on, what's going to go on 10 years from now. I think if I were to predict anything, we're going to have less rights. We're going to have more regulation. The power is going to entrench itself even more, you know, and eventually that structure will collapse on itself. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, it's always wild to me. The worst thing that could happen would be that, not the worst thing, but the thing that would bring our country to its knees is if the terrorists figure out they could just bomb the Federal Reserve. Right? Because it's the clearinghouse. So all of our transactions are cleared. Right? So if you could take down that system, you could take down this country.
But why has nobody tried though? He's brought this up in the past too. Like, why has nobody ever tried to kill a president, or why has nobody ever tried to kill these people that most people don't like?
Oh, because I think it's just because it's incredibly difficult. You know, I mean, we had 12 aircraft carriers, right? You saw what happened after 9/11. We leveled Afghanistan.
Right.
We leveled it. I was there. I was a part of it. Like, and on September 9th, I was in Singapore, and we pulled out, and 2 days later, towers get hit, and we're like, oh shit, I guess we're not going to the Persian Gulf. So whoop, right over off of the coast of Pakistan. And it took like 2 weeks for like diplomacy to happen so that we get cleared to fly over Pakistan. And, you know, because Pakistan's like, we didn't do it.
Right.
Right. Even though they were harboring Al-Qaeda and all that kind of stuff as well. And it's like, yeah. And then they just let us off the chain. We dropped 2.3 million tons of ordnance. 2.3 million tons. I mean, just obliterated that country.
I was on base, and I, let's see, right after that happened with my dad, and we went to the movie theater, and I remember they played Let the Bodies Hit the Floor, you know, and they fucking had these bombers come in and they just bombed the shit, and everyone was like cheering and throwing their hats and fucking headbutting each other.
Just reinforcing.
Yeah, just so amped.
The USA, right? You think about, go back in time, think about the sentiment.
Oh yeah, big time.
And we are absolutely just annihilating that country, right? And then it was like, okay, Iraq's next.
Right.
What?
Yeah, I remember I was jacked. You know, I was like fucking 12 or something.
And if people knew though,
right?
If people actually knew that, oh, it was our fault that the towers got.
Right. Yeah.
Actually know the history.
Inside job.
The Arab Spring and all this kind of stuff. Even if you like, okay, you don't want to go so far as like on the conspiracy trail to say that the U.S. orchestrated it, right? Because there are people that have that opinion. I'm not willing to go that far. I'm willing to go far enough to go, well, we created the conditions by starting foreign wars, by destabilizing governments created the enemy that hates us, that then attacks us, right?
We gave them weapons.
Like, you know, and then,
right.
And should we be that surprised?
Right.
Right. But I think the reason why people aren't testing us now is because of that kind of response.
Right.
It's like, oh, okay.
We'll level you.
Yeah. You will annihilate your entire country off the face of this planet. You will no longer exist. So it's like, do I really want to poke that bear? You know? So what do we got to do? We got to do it through, you know, different ways.
Subversive
ways.
I mean, I almost seen like that, you know, Afghanistan and Iraq, that was the peak of like force or the military complex. And I think that since then, to your point with the triangle, is that it's a liar has to create bigger lies to keep it going. And now that their lies are so big that it's backfiring on them.
Well, that's why the shift from foreign terrorism, the emphasis on foreign terrorism to domestic terrorism has happened.
Yes, exactly.
Because
right.
now, okay, the biggest threat to democracy, as in the biggest threat to our power, is under foreign terrorists.
It's the people who have seen through the lies. Damn.
It's the people who are going to challenge that power from within.
Yeah.
So now we got to go find them and root them out and turn the FBI on our own people. And
right.
It's wild times, man.
But another thing to just keep this thing going, I got to go get my son. But is the average federal worker is over the age of 55. The average congressman is over the age of 75.
Yeah, it's going to change.
Yeah, it's already changing.
But see, the people that are coming in now, right? They think about the AOCs of the world, right?
Good point.
They're coming in and they get a taste of that power, and they're like, "Oh, it's comfortable here."
Oh yeah,
right. I'm good.
Oh, good
I'm good.
point.
I'm good. Like even the so-called Freedom Caucus, right, with Gates and Boebert and all these people that are they're in on it too.
Yeah.
They didn't want to stay in it. This is the game. I like this.
Power corrupts. Absolute power.
I saw a video from 1972 of Joe Biden, and this guy was asking him, what's it like not being corrupted? And Joe Biden laughs and goes, what makes you think I'm not corrupted? But he said it with such a surety, and it's like, whoa, man.
Yeah.
You see that shit, and it's like, he's not joking. He's being serious because, I mean, it would be difficult though if somebody was like, want $1 billion, do what I say, it'd be
or blackmail.
Yeah. Or they caught you fucking sleeping with some little kid, and now you got to do whatever they tell you.
That's how power trades
exactly
with other power, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what do you have on me? What do you,
right?
What favors? It's all gross.
Yeah. I mean, if I ever ran as a politician, they could go to any of my ex-girlfriends and say, here's $50,000. We need some shit on Ken.
Mm-hmm.
They would give you all.
They don't even have to do that. They just have to make up a story.
Yeah. I mean, now with, AI and these, they can just get a sample of your voice and make up anything they want. So it goes to me, in closing, that Buckminster Fuller, quote is that, you don't try to change an old system. You just work on a system that renders the old one obsolete.
Exactly.
Because it's going to collapse under the weight of its own corruption.
Yeah.
We just have to continue educating our children and helping out our community and trying to wake them up and help
resources.
Exactly.
Right. It's not just the knowledge of it, right? Like buy some land, learn how to garden,
right?
Learn how to shoot, know how to make fire.
Right.
It's just the basics, right? And not even being like, oh my gosh, societal collapse.
Yeah.
Right. It's just like a month. Can you live a month in your house? Just even that basic principle.
Right.
Can you do that? Right. Can you protect your family? Can you, filter your own water? Can you make heat? All that kind of stuff I think is as important as anything. Because I think people are generally good.
100%.
People are generally good.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, if our neighborhood, if things are going to, it's like, yeah, come on. Come over for dinner.
Yes.
Right? We're all in this together.
Right. Yeah, it's just those few people that are running the matrix that have made everyone be afraid of each other.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to wake up. It's going to be painful for a lot of people. It's going to be probably painful for the three of us.
Sure.
Because who knows what's going to come. The death of my child would be, I don't know if I'd want to even go on anymore.
Catastrophic.
Yeah. So who knows the challenges that lay before us. But I think no matter what, the future is bright.
Yeah, it's good to have an optimistic view, right? And there are moments of black pill. Right. But I think it's better to believe in a positive future. And prepare for resiliency.
Yeah. Nice, Marcus. Well, man, thanks so much, man. Nice. Get in there. Good to meet you too, man. Great talk, man.